Hello. Well, it's time for us to start thinking about our next discovery call. Discovery call number three is going to be a call where we're going to talk about drivers and assigning drivers from a list in your travel tracker. So the first thing that you need to think about is if you want to be able to assign drivers from a list that you're going to provide us in Travel Tracker. Now, if you are not wanting to do that, you do not want to have the drivers in a list that you can pick from to assign drivers, then you can simply mark this task done. If you will let us know that you are not going to be using the driver in a list, so we can know that we can move on to the next milestone, just send us an email. But if you are interested in providing us a list of drivers and you want to be able to assign drivers from a list, then you want to hang on and keep watching this video and let me talk to you a little bit more about other things that you will need to be thinking about before we schedule our third discovery call. So if you are looking to provide us a list of drivers, there's two other things to think about now from there. The first thing is, are you wanting to provide us a list and you want to be able to assign drivers based on their availability? Now this is available in the Pro version and the Elite is not available in the Light version. So if you have the Light version, then the only thing you can do is just give us a list of drivers, and you can pick them from the list, but it won't be based on availability. But for those of you that would like to use drivers based on availability, then keep listening here. We need to think about a few other things if we're finding drivers based on availability. How those drivers display in the list is something that you can decide on. And let me kind of give you an idea of this by clicking on my Find Available Drivers button here that shows up in the trip request. So here is an example of a list of available drivers. And so notice how my drivers are listed here. And we see a list of their names, and these drivers are listed based on a rotation. And so if you would like to be able to assign your drivers based on a rotation so that the driver at the top of the list is the one who should get the next trip based on seniority and based on perhaps the number of trips they've been given that week or the number of extra hours they have that week. It could be based on not by week, but maybe cumulative, the number of total trips they have or the number of total hours they have. And so we can rotate your drivers based on seniority and hours or seniority and trips either weekly or continuously. So that's something else that you'll want to consider if you're going to use a rotation. Is it going to be weekly or continuous? Is it going to be based on the number of trips or the number of hours? Now maybe you don't want to list them in a rotation. You know who the driver is going to be before you ever open up the window. You just want to be able to find the driver and assign them. So maybe you want them to be sorted by name, which is just alphabetically. And so that's another decision to make. Do you want them to be sorted by rotation or alphabetically? Another thing to think about is do your drivers have a bus that they're regularly driving, and that if that driver's going on a particular trip, they're going to take their bus. And so if you want to provide that information, if that's the case, then you can give us their assigned bus, and their bus will be assigned with them. So when you would click to assign the driver, their bus automatically comes along with them. Another consideration is would you like to be able to narrow the list down of drivers that you have by putting them into a designation, a group, a category? So here's an example. These drivers are all in a designation of a regular driver. Here we've got a drop down that gives you some examples. You can completely customize this, but do you want to use driver designation so that you put your drivers into different groups so that that you only look at one particular group for any given trip? Some districts will use driver designations if you have drivers that only drive for certain schools, and so you could put their designation as that school that they drive for. Uh, we also have drivers. Some districts put their drivers into zones so that the drivers in this zone drive for this handful of schools, and the drivers in this zone drive for this handful of schools. So maybe you need to designate, in addition to a label, also a zone. And so you would need to think about that and put your drivers and get them organized into zones. Um, Also, are you planning to reimburse your drivers in the invoice? Do you need to be able to reimburse them for their time? If so, you want to pay your drivers. How do you pay them? Do they get an individual rate, or are they getting a district-wide rate? So you would want to be thinking about getting that information together. Now, if you have the elite version of the travel tracker, then you may be wanting to use our driver bidding feature that's available on the elite version. And if you're going to be doing driver bidding, your drivers are going to be able to indicate electronically that they are interested and available for particular trips that you would then award them based on their seniority. So are you going to be doing bidding? If you are, we'll need to know that so we can get the bidding set up and the driver set up in the table for bidding. Also, if you have the elite version, you may be interested in our driver tracking feature. The driver tracking will allow you to set up your drivers and to put in their licenses and certifications, trainings, and any expirations that they may have so that the travel tracker can keep up when things are expiring on your drivers and notify the driver that their CDL is expiring, or their DOT card is expiring, or maybe they need their medical exam, or whatever it might be. And so you're going to use driver tracking. Again, the bidding and the driver tracking are available only on the elite version, but that is something else to consider and think about if you're wanting to get those set up if you have the elite. So that's what you're going to be doing in today's task, is thinking about these things and thinking about your drivers. Again, if you are not looking to assign drivers based on giving us a list of drivers, then hopefully you're not still listening. But if you are wanting to provide a list of drivers, there's some things that you want to think about that we've gone over. And then you need to check your calendars and the Calendly link that's in your email, and choose the date and the time for our next discovery call. Number 3, where we're talking about drivers. During that call, we'll go over all of those things that I've asked you to think about, and then I will be providing you with a worksheet, just like we did with the vehicles and the school contacts, so that you can give me the information about the drivers, so that we can get your driver table set up. So after you make the appointment to schedule the call for the discovery call number 3, you can mark this task complete, and we will look forward to meeting with you again to talk about drivers. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.